Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg spent nearly 10 hours on Capitol Hill over the past 2 days being grilled by lawmakers about his company's failure to protect user data. That's when he revealed that he was one of the 87 million users whose personal information was harvested by Cambridge Analytica. He also addressed calls for possible regulation on Silicon Valley.
The internet is growing in importance around the world in people's lives. And I think that it is inevitable that there will need to be some regulation.
Now, these regulations could extend beyond just Facebook. The latest issue of Fast Company has a fascinating and intriguing article called Twitter Faces the Truth: How Jack Dorsey's free speech platform was hijacked by the dark side. It takes a look at how that social media titan is struggling to manage safety concerns on the site. Fast Company senior tech editor Harry McCracken co-wrote that article, and he joins us now from San Francisco. Good to see you.
Great to be here.
So this was a fascinating article, Harry. I'm so glad that you wrote it and that you reported some of these challenges. Describe for viewers some of those challenges facing Twitter right now and what the company is trying to do to address them.
Well, Twitter has been dealing with this longer than anybody. Long before Cambridge Analytica and other issues relating to Facebook popped up, Twitter was dealing with trolls and people who were harassing women and anti-Semitism on its platform, and it really went through a long period of struggling to figure out how to deal with this. Twitter really came out of this ethos of free speech, and for a long time they sort of felt like even if there was some bad speech, the way to deal with that was to have a lot of good speech, and it eventually became clear to them that even if there is a lot of great stuff going on Twitter, which there is, you've really got to deal with the bad actors, and they can have an awful lot of impact just because a tweet goes all the way around the world so quickly.
So in your article, you quote a former Twitter executive saying that safety got away from Twitter. It was Pandora's box. Once it's opened, how do you put it all back in again? So there's been a lot of talk about regulations in regards to Facebook and the hearings, but any of those regulations, would they actually apply to Twitter, and could they close that Pandora's box?
Well, everybody has discovered that this is not a problem that's easily fixed, no matter how much effort you put into it. Facebook is hiring 20,000 people to moderate content. YouTube, which also has some similar issues, is hiring 10,000, and even lots of people don't make it easy. There are some things where legislation can help. For instance, there's a bill called the Honest Ads Act, which both Facebook and Twitter have said they support, which would require that political ads be labeled very similarly to how TV or print political ads are. But there are all kinds of issues that are just so tough to figure out. One of the reasons that hoaxes are so powerful on platforms like Twitter and Facebook is that it's really hard for humans to identify a hoax, and for technology it's even harder.
And that's one of the challenges that you write about in this piece. You also talk about how difficult it is for Twitter's management to get ahead of some of these issues, and they're very real issues. For example, once groups, whether they are groups that seek to do harm to others or terrorist organizations, for example, like ISIS, are using Twitter and other social media platforms, it's very difficult for these executives. It has proven difficult for the executives to draw the line. For example, I'm going to read from your article here. For example, one executive would say, you can't show people getting killed on the platform. And that's because ISIS and other groups started showing beheadings. They'd take video and they'd post those beheading videos onto the Twitter platform. But then somebody would argue back, but what about a PhD student posting a picture of the Kennedy assassination? In other words, there's a Zapruder film where you see the president's head literally exploding into blood and gore. And so they've struggled with that. How have they come around to figuring out what to do?
Well, their response is definitely still a work in progress, but they have moved towards, deciding that as important as Twitter being a free speech platform is, there are cases where you need to opt to make the difficult decision and delete stuff rather than spend a lot of time debating over it. They are doing things like making it harder for bots to take over on Twitter. It's more difficult now for an automated account just to spew stuff onto the service, because one of the biggest problems that Twitter faces is that automation is such a powerful way to spread disinformation. So they've certainly done a number of things, and they've helped, but it's not the kind of problem that you get to 100% effectiveness on solving probably ever. And things that might help, such as artificial intelligence, are also still very much works in progress.
All right, Harry McCracken, it's a really fascinating article. Thank you so much for coming on to talk about it. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.